Today, if you have the paper say single-minded, devoted to God. I really love this subject. It's almost about being single. Because I got married, everything's fine, but I had a hard time being single. And I think many of us, and then we have different things through the time we are single. We have our hard times when we are 16, 20s, and then we have our different hard times when we are 25, 30s, and then we have our hard times when we are 30, 35, 50, 60. Therefore there are different times, and I want you to try to put it all together. And then we started with this just to show how the community is doing. There is a light there if you can see. 2011, probably we have, if we combine widow, divorced, and single, we're gonna be going over in some years' time, probably in 2015, over the married people. Therefore, the church has to be aware of that and be prepared of that. But you're probably saying, but I'm married already. You're part of this amazing family called, here local, called King's Church, but it's the Church of Christ. And in the family, don't have the married people, but we also have the single, the children, the youth, the young, and we have so many. And sometimes I got on that because, my family is very important to me. And then church is something I go on Sunday. It's a family because God said it's a family and Christ is the head of the church. But actually, we should see the things the other way around, because the Bible says if someone has to leave, mom and dad has to leave parents behind to follow Christ, they should do it. Therefore, our family here, following Christ, putting our cross and walking together, it is very important. And I want just to highlight that. Therefore, if you're married and you think, he's going to be talking about single, I want you to pay attention. You're part of this family, and you have to love the single, and you have to embrace. And actually, there is, when I started to think about it, and I was trying to get, how can we live the fullness of God? Do we have to get married to live the fullness of God? And we are single, many times we think we do. Something is wrong with me because I didn't get married. Therefore, we need to watch that, because to live the fullness of God, doesn't matter what color, what age, what civil status you are, if you're married, single, widow, whatever. To live the fullness of God just depends your relationship with God. Depends on you loving God. Depends you to understand that you're sons and daughters of God, and He has a full life for you. And then that's what we're going to be talking today, to see how as a church we are prepared to receive these people, and how we as single are prepared to live the fullness of God in our life daily. Alright? Shall we start? Hold on. Yeah. The first part of it, I'm just going to do an introduction theology about that. Because when you read the Old Testament, what comes to our mind? People trying to get married and have a son. Alright, we see Abraham. Abraham traveled and he took 100 years, but he was looking forward to have a son. And then what happened? He asked his servant to go find a wife to Isaac. Then he finds a wife, he got married and has 2 sons. And then that's the whole idea about Old Testament. When we read it, we say, we're gonna have to do it, because that's the way. We see that all over. Why? Because on the Old Testament, we have something different from the New Testament. But I'm gonna keep in the Old for a while. There is the name. People don't have the same idea as us of heaven as we have today after Christ. The idea of being on earth was to put their name down. If we look Deuteronomy 25 verse 6, say, the first son she bears shall carry on the name of the dead brother, so that the name will not be blotted out from Israel. That's amazing. We don't do that today, but at that time, if the firstborn married and do not have a son, and he dies, and then the next brother on the line should get married to his wife, have a son, and when the son comes, he doesn't have his name, but has the brother's name. Why? Because that's the way to keep your inheritance. That's the way to keep your name here on earth. You have to have a son with your name. Alright, well, let's move. The second thing is about the inheritance. The Redeemer. And I put Boaz over there, which was married to Ruth. Alright? That's the second reason. The people of Israel doesn't have the idea of heaven that we have today, but the inheritance was the land, the promised land. Therefore, you need to keep your piece of earth here for the posterity. And then, therefore, if you don't have a son, you need to find someone who could redeem your land, the kinsman redeemer, and then you buy your land and keep your name. That's what happened. Ruth has a land, but there is no king redeemer. And then she found Boaz, and then he was not the next on the line. He has to go and trade with someone to be the next on the line and get married. But nowadays, it's different. Christ has done all in the cross, at the cross for us. Now, our name is not in our son. Our name is already in the book, the eternal book of life. And our name carries Jesus' name. Jesus' blood on it. Therefore, we don't have to, I need to have a son for posterity, because our posterity, our inheritance, is in heaven. We don't have the piece of land, as this highlights used to have. Our inheritance is in heaven, and God is building a beautiful house. Jesus said, I go to heaven, I'm going to build a beautiful house for you. Therefore, we live in a different time. And I just want to read what John Piper said, because I think it's great. He said, the greatest, wisest, most fully human person who has ever lived never married, Jesus Christ. His greatest apostle never married and was thankful for his singleness. Jesus himself said that in the age to come we do not marry, and he added that the age come had already broken into this world. Therefore, the presence of single people in the church not only attests the sufficiency of Christ for the reception of God's covenantal blessings in the new covenant, but also remind us that the spiritual age has already been inaugurated in Christ and waits imminent consummation. Our lives cry out for significance, and significance comes from seeing ourselves the way God sees us, including our singleness. Can you note how important? Because people who are married, when they see a single come to a wedding, what they say, oh, you're the next. And what happened? Sometimes we feel a lot of pressure to get married. I need to move on this. It's like a house ladder, isn't it? You grow up and then you go, and then you have to get married. And then when you get married, when comes the first son and all these things, people are always asking us. But there is time for everything. And I'm just going to go here for a moment, because I want you to understand that I don't want you to stay single forever. If you want to get married, do it. Alright? I'm just saying that you don't have to rush. You don't have to get anyone. But you need to be wise when you do it, why you do it. It's not, because sometimes we do it thinking, oh, this person is going to make me happy. But that's not the way. We should marry because we want to make the other person happy. Once someone asked Max Lucado's wife, said, does this man make you happy? Oh, it's Max Lucado, he's a great guy, man of God, he sold more than 16 million books already. I was like, wow, one day I'll be there. You know, it's such a faithful guy. And then she said, no. And then everyone was like, how can he make you happy? He's amazing. He said, because who makes me happy? It's myself. I decide to be happy. I was happy when I was single. I married him. He did great things, but he also has his time, his failures. What makes me happy? It's what I decide what makes me happy. Therefore, it's not the other who's going to make you happy, but it's your own decision to do the things you like, the way you like it. Therefore, when you go to marry, you're going to make the other person happy. You're going to try it. Because if you marry and hoping that the other one is going to make you happy, you're going to have a hard time to discover that. You're going to have a hard time before everything moves on. Well, I put these three men just because I was talking about Old Testament. The first two, Nehemiah, we just studied the book of Nehemiah, and he was a great man of God, and he was single. Daniel was another great man of God. Amazing. He served 3 different kings, and he served a lot of different people. He was single as well. Joseph wasn't single for his whole life. But that's what I want to make, a point I want to make here. Why are you single? You enjoy your life, conquer things, do things, and then when you marry, you're still doing it. Because Joseph, if you read the book, he was single for the time he was sold, the time he was a slave, the time he was in prison, and he's still doing the best. He's still serving God, he's still having his life, trying to live his life in fullness. He was doing good. When he became wise king, or the second on the line, he got married. And then he's still doing good things, he's still being faithful, he's still helping his family. Therefore, that's the point I want to make here. You know, enjoy your life the way you are now. If things are going to change for the future, that's fine. But don't wait to have someone to travel, to buy a house, or to do any other thing. If you can't do it now, just do it. But I'm going to keep moving on for us to understand other things, and then I'm sure God's going to speak different with different people today. The youth, you should be faithful like Joseph. He was 15 when he left home. 15, 16, you're at 15, 16 here today. And you can do great things as Joseph done. He got married, he was 32, 33. That's when he got married, and he's still doing great things. Therefore, youth, this guy was good, he was faithful, he had the opportunity to have sex before marriage, and he decided not doing it. And sex for him wasn't just for sex, but for job, good house, and has everything on it, and he decided to say no. It's not about the pleasure of the moment, but has lots more things on it. But he said, oh, I want to be poor until I got married. And then, therefore, that's for something the people were younger. But let's carry on. The Bible says to us from different types of singles as well. In 1 Corinthians 7, verse 34 says, an unmarried woman and virgin is concerned about the Lord's affairs. I'm going to keep that. I think that text could work as a married man and a virgin. And then there are 2 kinds of people. The unmarried there, it's based on the word in Greek, agamos, which means unmarried. And on that, I want to include here today the people who have been divorced, the divorcees, they come back to that, and the widow and the widower, they come back to that as well. Now we have a different life, but God is still with you, and He's still loving you. And He put that because we're going to see later on that He has a special things for you as well. And the virgin is what Joseph said about Joseph. That's the idea of Paul, who never got married, hopefully still virgin, until they got married. That's an idea. That's why he used they're married or virgin. That's the idea of Paul on that text. Alright, therefore, the singles who never married is the virgin, and their married is based on the people, widower and divorcees, and the single never married. You probably say, oh, the time Joseph was easy, now it's not, it's very difficult. No, I tell you, it's still easy. You can do it. I know people who've been get married in the 30s, 40s, and still protecting themselves, still virgins. Alright? But let's carry on. The next verse says, Matthew 19, 10 to 12, said, the disciples said to him, if this is the situation between a husband and a wife, it's better not to marry. Jesus replied, not everyone can accept his word, but only those to whom it has been given. For some are eunuchs because they were born that way, others were made that way by men, and others have renounced marriage because of the kingdom of heaven. The one who accepts this should accept it. Alright. This word, eunuch, could be translated as single. It's a person who has no commitment. It's a person who is unmarried. Therefore, it's a single person. And I want to put three kinds of people that Jesus just related on this text. The first one is, for some are single because they were born that way. Some people have, when they were born, unfortunately, they came with some diseases, some disabilities, some things that will not allow them to get married, like a high level Down syndrome, or because we know that low level people still get in life, or different kinds of disease or disabilities. These people not be able to get married. The second people say others were made that way by men. Of course, if we look to the eunuchs, they were made by men because they were castrated and put to take care of the king's affair and other things. But if we look at that text today, we can see a different perspective, a psychological perspective on it. Many people are made singles because the way they saw their parents' wedding, the relationship between the parents, mom and daddy, father and mother. They look and say, oh, that I don't want it. I prefer to stay single. That's one of the ways. I have a friend, after she had the first relationship, a dating boyfriend, she took 10 years to have her second boyfriend. That was so much that were in her mind after that, emotionally, physically. A lot of things happened. Therefore, a lot of people have been made single because of psychological problems in the modern life. Things that happen, things that it's difficult to deal. And they need care. That's why I'm saying to the church that we need to love them. People have been abused in the childhood who cannot relate. I know cases of people who can have a boyfriend because they've been abused as children. For the father, for the uncle who came home sometimes, or someone. There's a lot of hurt that we as a church has provided healing and help. The third type is, and others have renounced marriage because of the kingdom of heaven. And I want to divide that into two groups. The first group is the one who really made single because they decide to devote their lives to God and decide to be missionaries in Afghanistan or missionaries somewhere in Africa or in Amazon in Brazil or somewhere. And then or even here the nuns and the fathers, people like just decide to have their lives given to God and that's it. But the second group that I want to bring that up there is a group who, at the end of the day, are single for a long, long time. But they did that not because they were made by men like that, not because they were born like that, but because of decisions like career. Oh, I saw someone, I want to date, but I'm going to give time for my career. I'm going to give time to my studies. I'm going to give time for my my company, entrepreneur, or traveling, or move somewhere else, or because I know many people, being from Brazil as I am, that a lot of people who decide to come here, and they have girlfriends in Brazil, and the relation was going good, but because they decided to come, the things broke off, didn't work out. Therefore, they gave at that time for learning English, for an adventure in another country, for the career that they need the English or something, and then we say no. We say no. Then come an age we say, why did I get married? And then it's hard, but when we look back, and we're going to see that was little decisions that happened. Therefore, there are people who renounce marriage because of God, and there are people who renounce marriage because of little things here and there, or didn't find this right person. By the way, there is no Mr. Right and Mrs. Right here. Learn that. There are people who still, God said, the work He started, He will finish. It's more or less like that, even when you get married. The work He started, when you get married, He will finish. And therefore, it's a long time. But, people who just decide, well, let's keep moving on. The gift. If I come here and say, you have the gift of prophecy, some of you stand, put your hands up and say, the gift of evangelism, the gift of preaching, the gift. But if I say, do you have the gift of celibacy? Many people would say, actually, no one wants to stand their hands on that gift, to stay single forever. Therefore, I think somehow we create a kind of myth on that gift. I believe there is that gift, but the way I see it is more or less like that. Now, as a concession, not a commandment, I say this. I wish that all were as I myself am. But each other has his own gift from God. One of one kind and one of another. What I get from that is, I believe in the gift of celibacy and you're going to have it forever, but what I learned is one have a gift of one. It's like when you're single, you have the gift of singleness, and when you're married, you have the gift of married people, marriageness, or something like that. Because when you're single, you have the temptation, but you're able to support it. You're alone somehow, and you need to find friends, but you can deal with that. And when you're married, you have to support each other, you have to love each other, you have to, the next generation, the sons and daughters who come, you have the capacity to bring them up, and all these things. Therefore, I think there is time for everything. There is one famous guy who said that if you're walking on the road, you're single, and you see a girl or boy, and you think, oh, I should marry him, or he's beautiful, or whatever, and then therefore you don't have the singleness gift, and you need to get married. I don't see it that way, because that's why I said we create a myth about the single. Single don't have a temptation because they have the celibacy gift, and you do have a temptation, you do have a lot of things, but you have to discern properly when to do things. It's like the marriage guy. Sometimes he was walking on the road to think, I should be by myself. What have I done? Should he be single now because he thought about that? No, because he did a vow. He did a covenant with his wife. Therefore, he needs to keep on that. Therefore, the same way as a single, you need to discern properly when is the time to get married, and with who, what do you expect on that person, and maybe you're never going to get married. That could happen as well. And that's not a bad thing, because as we learned today, God has a special thing for you. He loves you, He cares about you, and you can live your fullness, your significance as a single person. In Portuguese we have a proverb who say, it's better to be alone than with a bad company. I don't know if you have something like that here, but I discovered through the years that could be true. Because the other person will not change. But what's happening is, when you're single, sometimes you feel loneliness. You feel you are the only person in the world with this problem. I discovered through the time that every time we have a problem, we think we are the only person who has that problem. Have you thought about that? And then you think no one can help you, no one can pray for you, the church is there running and you don't need to be there because you have a problem. At least you think you have a problem. And I like, we're going to deal with that, but I like what Elijah said. Elijah went to the king, said, no rain for 3 years, and then said, it's going to rain, and then rain came. He killed 400 prophets, and then one day he decided to go under a tree and said, then the Lord came and said, what are you doing here, Elijah? He said, I have been very jealous for the Lord, the God of hosts. For the people of Israel has forsaken your covenant, thrown down your altars, and killed your prophets with the sword. And even I only am left, and they seek my life to take it away. I'm the only one. There is no one else here. And then what happened? He repeats that in verse 13 and 14. I'm the only one. No one here. And then God fed him, give him food, drink, ask him to travel, he traveled, and then he spoke again, he said that again, and then what? How many were there? Can you read that? Yeah, there were only 7,000. But God chose Elijah to do it. But he couldn't have chosen any of these 7,000 to do it. What I'm saying is, many times we are saying, I'm the only one. No one has gone through this experience. But if we come to church, we can share, we can pray, we can change. You're not alone. You've never been alone. You know, I always use that as example of that, as an example of that. When we had Marissa, and we started the breastfeeding process and everything, and then it was difficult, and then what we thought? Oh, we the only one have this problem. No one has ever had this problem. And then there is a lot of different groups, play groups and other things, and then you come and share and say, oh, everyone has that. Shall we sit here and learn a bit and talk a bit about that? And you know, people have this kind of problem, but you single, you think, I'm the only one here because I'm alone. See, that's the difference of the loneliness and the solitude that we have to learn about it. Because in Matthew 28, verse 20 says, teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you, and behold, I am with you always. First, you're never alone if you are sons and daughters of God, because He is with you all the time. In Romans say that you can hide from His love, not even if you go to the deepest part, the highest part, if you close yourself in a safe or something, you're still not able to go far from His love. Because I am with you always. Jesus, God, everyone is with you always. But I like the second verse talking about not being alone, because that gives you some responsibility about it. Because it says, not neglecting to meet together, not neglecting to come to church, not neglecting to come to life group, not avoiding to be part of something else, as is the habit of some, but encourage one another. That's one of the reasons why we come to church. Because we are here to say, go, we are praying for you, do that. Therefore, it's different when you're single to be alone, suffer from loneliness, than to have a solitude, your own time, your own thing, go to move sometimes by yourself and enjoy things. Because there is God who is always with you, and there is a church And that's why we need to, as a church, prepare to embrace the single as married people, and that's why the single should come to church to know you are part of this family, and this family is important. But I want to give you 5 advice for a better life. I'm being courageous now. I'm being brave, but I'm going to try to give you 5 advice for it. Connect. Research has shown that who has less than 3 people in their close network of contacts from family and friends has more chance to develop a mental illness. Start to count. You have to have at least 3. If you don't, please get the address of someone, a phone number, and email today. Send an email to the church, say, can I have 2 emails, please? Or something like that. We need close friends. Friends who are going to tell the truth to us. Friends who are going to put us in the right direction. Friends who are going to put us in the right path. And that's work for you married as well, yeah? Married people. It's not just the wife, it's just one, you still needing 2. Alright? Second advice, be active. Long-term studies suggest that the practice of physical activity prevents the decline of mental capacities and protects against anxiety and depression. And help you to lose weight. See? I wish Nana was here today, because Nana changed my life. Because we paid to go to the same gym, but no one of us was to go to the gym. And then he said, I stop it. What I do now, I walk to work. And I was like, you know, I heard about this. Don't get the bus on the first stop, or walk to the second stop, and something like that. And then I decided to, instead of getting the South Harrow Piccadilly line, which is near home, 3 minutes walking, and go to Hyde Park Corner, and then get a bus for 2 stops to get where I work, I decided to walk to Harrow the Hill, get the train, get down Marylebone and walk. That took me just 10 minutes difference time, 10 to 15 minutes more. And that helped me, of course I closed my mouth as well, in 3 to 4 months to lose a stone and a bit. Alright? Therefore, help you to lose weight. But the main thing is, help you with the mental capacities and protect you against anxiety and depression. That's a good thing to do. I really hope you do. Second, watch. Pay attention. Every time I say pay attention, just remember when we were traveling, we had a cab guy who was talking to us through the beauties of the city we were in, and he was a kind of a tour guide, and then every time you don't pay attention, he just punch you and say, pay attention, pay attention. But it's actually kind of watch thing. Research has shown that people trained to pay attention to their feelings for 8 to 12 weeks have improved their well-being for years. You know, we go through a lot of experience in life, but sometimes we don't take the experiences on board. We just have gone through something, but we don't know how to relate to that thing because we didn't pay attention to our feelings, to our emotions. We didn't know what we learned from that, what we should have done different. We just gone through. One pastor was saying, I have a lot of experience in marriage because I stay with the same wife for 40 years. But people who has been with 4 or 5 wives think I have more experience than I because they have 3 or 4 wives. And then I was just laughing because it was kind of a joke for the beginning of his sermon. But what he meant is that he took the experience, he took the learning from every hard bits and good bits of his wedding. He not just been through something, because sometimes we do the same thing many times and we haven't learned anything. But if we do and pay attention to watch our emotions, our feelings, what we did right and what we did wrong, that would be a good thing. Second, keep learning. Research suggests that well-being is linked to goals, if their goals were established by individuals themselves and relating to the personal values. Learn how to change a shower, it's a good thing. Learning how to Just cook is a good thing. Come to our Connect class, cooking class, one day. I learned a lot of things, and I'm still hoping that we're going to use it. But I learned some bits. Do something that you love. Many people know here that I finally wrote a book. It took me 7 years to do it. That was my keep learning. I had to keep learning how to write. It took me 7 years, but it was a good thing. Maybe you have a different goal in your life. You have a goal, a simple goal to do something, or have a major goal. But keep learning. Go to class, learn another language. I was in Brazil now, and people came to me, they were in the 50s, 60s, and said, how do I go to England to learn English? That people who have that idea of keep learning. There is no age to stop learning, stop doing things. Donate yourself too. Research has shown that individuals who have great interest in other people tend to consider themselves happier. When I was trying to learn about this single thing, I discovered that something that made me really sad. That the majority of people who volunteered for any kind of volunteer work, when more people were married than single. And I was like, that sounds a bit weird, because single theoretically should have more time. Why married people are giving more? Because probably when they got married, they learned that we need each other. We need to donate ourselves to each other. And that's something I really want to press here. Because that's what Paul said in 1 Corinthians. He said, I want you to be free from exiles. The married man or woman is anxious about the things of the Lord, how to please the Lord. But the married man is anxious about worldly things, how to please his wife, and his interests are void. The married or betrothed woman is anxious about the things of the Lord, how to be whole in the body and the spirit. But the married woman is anxious about the worldly things, how to please her husband. Alright, I know it's a bit tricky, and we married people think single has the whole time of the world. No, they don't. They're studying, they're working, and when you're going to clean our house, the man do one thing, the wife do other things, and the single has to do both things by themselves. You don't have the whole time of the world, but you do have more flexibility of the time. And I agree with Paul, and I believe what he said is true. You don't need to be so much involved on the world things. When I was single, I would travel with just a backpack, sleep anywhere, stations, bus stations, train stations. I have done all of it. Alright, but now that I'm married, hopefully I will have at least a room somewhere in a hotel to put my wife and now my little daughter. But you guys have flexibility, because sometimes you have something to do. You have to come home the night time and do all the things you have to do as married, because say that, please girls listen, how to please her husband or how to please his wife. We need to do all these things. But as single, you have the flexibility of the time. You can come to church, do a prayer up to 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning. Based on that, if someone asks me, and I just have these two alternatives, you want a church with married people or a church with single people, and you have to decide, you cannot mix them. I would probably say I want a church with single people, because you have more time. To please the Lord. You have our interest is to please the Lord. That's why we see a lot of churches just single growing fast, because you guys can do so much. And then I want to call you guys to be part of the worship. I want to call you guys and girls to be part of the life group. I want to call you guys to be really making something to this church, not just waiting what Dave's going to do for me. When he's going to come and say, how are you? What you can do, because you have this flexibility of time, and you can do a lot of things. But before we finish, I just want to say to the single that all your needs, if you find or if you don't find someone, will be supplied in God. And you know, when I say singles, I say 16 onwards, divorcees, widower, people who have gone through hard feelings, hard emotion, hard times, and people who have gone none of this, but still having to work a lot of things. I want to tell you that God will supply every need of yours. In Psalm 23 says that nothing will miss in your life. Psalm 23 verse 1 says, God is your pastor. Nothing will miss. It's not. Therefore, I want you to finish here to believe that the fullness of God can be lived as a single, as married. The fullness of God can be lived as rich as poor, as male as female. That depends on how you depend on Him and how you see your relationship as sons and daughters of God Almighty, of the Abba, the Father in your life. And all your needs will be supplied. Everything. And as we finish, I just want to pray. I just want you to close your eyes. Put yourself before the Lord now. And say to Him that you trust that all your needs, everything you need, everything you dream. The Bible says that He has plans for you, and He has plans for good things. He has plans to prosper your life. He has plans that will really make you shine. But you have to put that thing in His hands to make His plan work. If you don't put your life, don't put everything in His hands, will not work perfectly. Lord, thank you. Thank you so much. Because you are God, not just 2,000 years ago, and where people may not be thinking about the singleness and people not be thinking the way we think today. But you are God today, and your word is clear for us today, that saying that you supply our needs, you supply everything, Lord. You are God where we can live our fullness. You are God where we can prosper, we can have dreams. You are God who cares. And you are God who is our Father. A Father who loves us so much that sent His firstborn Son, Jesus Christ, to die on the cross. The way that we're going to have not life now, tomorrow, and forever. Life in you, with you. In Jesus' name, Amen.